was it good?
Yeah, I thought about.
Don't you have an intro to roll?
No, not for this. No.
Why not?
I think that's
Why
probably
not just play it anyway?
Okay.
Show Ricky it.
Ricky, I'll play.
Oh no, we're live.
All right.
We're live. That's okay. Here we go.
Here's a snap.
Crack and pop.
What is God's name? How do you know God's name is Howard?
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Howie! How we doing? How we doing? How we doing?
Yeah.
Well, 10 seconds.
Yeah. Howard. How are we doing? Okay.
Perfect. All right, Tyler, fill some air. I'm gonna find something.
All right, we're filling some air. Brian, we were just talking about. We're watching a video that somebody put on the internet discussing the changes.
Yeah.
We're not gonna. He who must not be named.
We're not gonna give him any publicity.
Yep. No more publicity for this guy. Talking about being unsatisfied. What I found was interesting about what he was just saying is he was complaining because I think there is, from my perspective, there's only merit from the potential complaints from being an affiliate owner and how these, not even changes to the format, but more so related to the social media, pulling the social media platforms from CrossFit. I just think that affects the affiliates a little bit, but not that CrossFit really owes them anything. I just think maybe a little bit more of an explanation or communication ahead of time. But then he just kind of goes right into also tying it into complaints about the competition format. So he is like blending those two together where, I just don't really value his opinion for that.
Oh, man. I just found CrossFit's YouTube page is lit right now.
With
too.
what?
I mean, they've done a really good job of organizing like new uploads with recipes and like some of the bullshit that Junior was talking about. How like people aren't gonna. I mean, I get it. The set is laughable. The movement demos, like holding a bag of dog food and deadlifting gallon jugs, is kind of silly, but it's practical. It's what sick and unwell people are gonna want to do. They're not gonna want to go to the gym where they see a super sexy girl like Julie Fouché doing ball slams. Ooh.
Yeah, it's funny that now we're shifting the business model, or the focus of the business.
Foundational movements.
Well, and it's like, okay, now we're gonna focus on, we've got this, what, old people basically, like aren't some of these people so health wise so far gone? Shouldn't you be concentrating on the younger generation of people and like making them focus on being healthy forever instead of when they're 60 plus years old? And
where do people learn good habits from? Where do people learn what to eat and how to exercise? And
hopefully their parents.
Yeah, and who above that? If you're from a single family home.
YouTube?
No.
They seem to think YouTube.
A grandparent, right? So if your grandparent is unwell, out of shape, and starts working out, isn't it just as likely that you then will participate in a similar lifestyle? So like to suggest that
That's
you
valid.
should just ignore a certain percentage of the population because, well,
No, I'm not.
They're too far gone. It's like, well, they are the people that probably need it most. And if you can educate and properly coach them to a healthy lifestyle, then they'll do the same for a younger generation of people. I think that's more sustainable and a longer output.
Well, I didn't say ignore them. The focus is being put on them.
You said right off.
No, the focus is being put on them where that's what'll be sustainable, is getting younger people to start doing CrossFit. But as that person was relating it to, it doesn't, he's unhappy with the changes of the games format, the pulling of the social media.
He's salty that Hunter McIntyre was able to talk his way into a bid. He didn't like that.
Yeah, he didn't like that, which is funny.
Which I think is great. I hope Hunter shows up and wins an event.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt he's super fit and he'll... Yeah, it's funny because this Junior just... he's not even in the individual field anymore, and he wouldn't even be relevant if he was. And Matt Fraser's going to over...
He's earned the right to share his opinion. I'm not
for
trying
sure
to tell him he can't.
No.
Buzz off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Fraser's still going to win. We all know that.
I mean, he showed that at the Invitational. He got no rep know all sorts of stuff like that, and still just owned.
Yeah.
Throwing up an Invictus video now. We can talk a little bit about some of their drug problems.
Some of their drug problems.
Not only do the dancers advocate ayahuasca, psilocybin, and smoking weed, but their athletes are taking Turnaball.
Yeah.
Illinois legal now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we'll talk about that. I guess there were, to be fair to this young lady, Chantel Lehner is her name.
Well, she wasn't playing fair. Why do we need to be fair to her?
Well, I'm just saying she wasn't the only one popping oral Turinabol, but
Fair.
she was swapping spit with Lauren Hara, apparently. So they both got popped. Invictus X.
Do you think it's purposeful that they're pointing out athletes from these big gyms to make a statement? Because I mean, it's talked about, argued about, probably the reality that there's quite a few people that are now in the competitive field that are at least pushing the limits of what they're allowed to do and take.
No doubt.
So
there's no doubt they want to make examples out of people.
And people that probably have large followings.
Which is why I've always said that, the suggestion that that's why I jumped in.
Thanks, bro.
Is some of the biggest criticisms have been like almost the accusation that CrossFit has been sweeping under the rug larger name athletes they don't have
control.
If anything, they're
not in the gyms. They're not watching people work out.
They're going to
want
to pop anybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he's got a very hands-off approach to the affiliate model in general. Open your gym, make successful on your own right.
Yeah.
And I think people are. Yeah. I mean, like Ricky pointed out, people are afraid to change. They don't like. They're going to say, "Woe is me. I'm the affiliate." People aren't going to want to tune in and see old people lifting and want to come to the gym. They want to see people competing and working out hard. That's what got me to come. Well, you're arguably one of the fittest men still in the world. You showed that at a competition recently, and
right.
There aren't many people like you. So.
Right. I guess what I would know on the performance-enhancing drug avenue, you touched on it about the bigger name gyms, is I would like, I shouldn't say would like to know. It's what a thought that goes through my head is, did CJ Martin know as a coach, if you're how familiar you are with your athlete, you
probably should
would be able to tell if they're taking.
The guy's also running like a business, an organization that has multiple gyms, affiliates, hundreds of coaches. So I don't expect him to be monitoring what his athletes are drinking every time pre-post workout, because that was the argument, right? She changed off of a sponsored pre-workout and took a
one time
different...
in competition. What, according to her Instagram, she said in a competition in the MAC, it sounded like it was she took somebody else's pre-workout.
It also didn't really seem like she was willing to own up to like.
No, because someone even said in the comments, someone commented and said, "Oh, they're putting Turinabol in pre-workout these days."
It is unregulated. There are probably companies that are pushing.
She responded with, "Send me a direct message."
Yeah.
So not exactly total transparency there, but whatever.
Well, Jocko always talks about extreme ownership, and that didn't seem like she was willing to do that.
Hardly any ownership.
Yeah.
So. I mean, she did say that she took a different pre-workout. She wanted to make sure that her current sponsor...
Granny Games looked a little crazy. Are we off the drug stuff?
Yeah, we can go right into Granny Games.
Because I think there are more people that need to be busted, to be quite honest with you.
100%.
I think there are more
There's
athletes.
Definitely more people
They need to allocate the funds to higher levels of testings at these sanctionals. I agree with Junior's assessment that CrossFit needs to provide some sort of support in programming a pool of workouts that can be chosen from, something of the sort, so that there is some consistency.
Standardization, for sure. 100%.
It's all being figured out. That's not a problem. What hasn't changed at all is what the athletes are required to do. The movements are still the same.
Yep.
The workout and time domains aren't differing that much, right? Yeah, sure. You might be able to or asked to shoot a compressed rifle. Okay, fun stuff. But they're not asking them to do new things. Go visit the main site, go do the workouts on the main site, and you'll be fine at any CrossFit sanctioned competition you show up to.
They're asking them to do a new thing like every now and again at the games. That's it.
Figure out your own season is what they're asking them to do. We're not gonna give it to you. We're not gonna cook the cupcake, ice it for you, put the candle in, light it for you. Figure it out. Figure out the recipe, what's gonna work for you, what sanctionals you need to show up to. You qualify. I mean, what's proving to be true is all you really need to do is place in the top 15 at a sanctional, and you write yourself a pretty good opportunity to get into the games, right?
Well,
I mean, because these athletes are encouraged
it will
to
be
show
different.
up and compete.
Yeah, it'll
They
be
wanna make
different.
money.
It'll be different now because going into the competitions,
There won't be
you'll
20
know.
athletes out because there's not going to be an open anymore.
But you'll know. You
There's
still
gonna be
might
like
be able to.
26 or 28 sanctionals.
Yeah, but since the open will be the first thing that happens, what
I
I'm
don't
saying
think they're
is,
going to invite anybody off the open. Or isn't that what we heard?
well, we heard that there wasn't even going to be an open potentially.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean,
there is an open for this year for this next year in October. There's one on
it
the
hasn't
schedule.
happened, so
It hasn't happened. You're right. They might pull it, but as of right now, all I'm saying is going into each sanctional, you'll know who's qualified. So you could still finish 15th and qualified, depending on where you're going. Yeah, for sure.
And these sanctionals, I mean, it is going to be hard. I mean, it's clear that these
For them to be sustainable, is that? Yeah, that's my only concern. My
Rogue
only
was able
concern.
to pull it off because they didn't have to pay to get the equipment. They didn't
They
have
already
to
have
pay to
scale.
transport the
They've
equipment.
got the name. Dubai will last because there's oil money and those people don't need money and they can spend $100,000. You know, they can waste money on a
get a
competition.
lot of volunteers.
My concern is, and I'm not even saying profitability because they need to make a ton of money. It doesn't make sense if they're not sustainable. And to be sustainable, it means to break even or more. And if I'm just worried about some of these other sanctionals, if you can't get big name athletes at your competition for people to either want to watch or attend, it's going to be hard.
You can't offer prize money because
it's going to be hard to, exactly.
10,000 at Rogue, they gave away, what, $50K to the winner?
They gave away so much money.
Yeah.
They gave away I mean, if you finished in the top 10, you got $1,000.
They also were able to afford that because they didn't have to pay the legends to show up. Kalipa addressed that several times.
Well, yeah, I mean,
which is cool.
The Rogue,
they didn't pay out for the legends.
I would almost bet that the Rogue Invitational was by far the most profitable event. They had all the equipment. They've done that before, basically at the games. Their people were break down and change.
Well, I think what we're watching too, and you and I had this discussion about these sanctionals, is athletes don't want to show up to Wadapalooza where there's 800 other people. So
you were about to get
they
to that.
Don't want to go to
Games.
the Granite Games where there's teams of 3, all men, all girls. There's 4-person teams. There's individual competition. There's master competition. There's scale competition.
Ooh, nice butt.
They don't want to be in an athlete area where every porta potty is being used. They don't want to be in an athlete area where they have to wait 10 minutes to get on a treadmill.
They were very careful.
Up.
That's not like a pretentious thing. It's like they're there to work
and qualify.
To work, to make money.
Yes.
This is a lot of their jobs.
Yep.
And their perspective is it's less professional.
I think that's also why people are butthurt by the changes, is because you can't be. I mean, if CrossFit's not on Instagram, it's not going to pay as much to be a CrossFit athlete, so people are upset about it.
Well, yeah,
you don't have as much leverage when selling yourself as this CrossFit athlete. When
more
CrossFit's
people
not
at the
even
games,
on
it's
these
diluted.
platforms.
It's what you're right. It's diluted in people's perspective. It's diluted their spotlight or their persona.
Work harder.
But what they don't realize is if hopefully it's going to grow the sport, more attention actually. The whole pie is growing.
People like Hunter coming, people like Hunter coming and competing is only going to do good things for CrossFit.
It will bring people to watch CrossFit that haven't watched CrossFit.
Yeah, and weightlifters and these other athletes are like, okay, if maybe I just dedicate 2 days a week to working on running and a little bit
more
of
cardio,
I can go to the CrossFit Games. I can win an event at the Games and I can win $15K. I can win $10,000. I can win whatever they're
or it will give me publicity. I can win an event and then I can get some publicity and then.
Show up and compete. Yeah. I mean, a lot of athletes don't all. Yeah. Go get a sock.
Get a sock.
I need to wash it. Maybe it's like absorbing my stanky coffee breath.
Yeah. So I totally agree. Athletes have said it that these competitions like Granite Games and Wadapalooza, if they want to stay as the more highly touted sanctionals, they're going to have to cut all these other scaled intermediate divisions. It's a whole bunch of clusterfuckery.
Allow local affiliates to hold those amateur competitions.
Yeah, and maybe even have
truly
those.
Is amateur. The whole sport is growing too fast to allow. Well, anyway.
Jen Smith's wearing some Noble shorts. Is she not sponsored by Reebok anymore? Do we know? I don't know.
She's got a Reebok hoodie on. I don't think Reebok's sponsoring a whole lot of athletes.
They're not.
TBH.
They're not. One thing from the Granite Games of note, some of our CrossFit Krypton. There was a
Danny
fun
Spiegel. What a romp!
I guess so. To bring it full circle, Invictus X, Chantel Lahner, however you say her name, she got popped. They got disqualified. Then the same weekend, the team with Christy Aramo, the dancers. Margot. Christy Aramo, Margot. They then qualified that weekend because CrossFit Krypton won, but they had already received their invite. And they looked really good.
Yeah, I mean, they dominated.
The
boys are back. Boys are fitter. Cody Mooney and Alec
feeling a little bit better.
Really strong.
She's really strong.
I think
super
Camille
fit.
just needs to get her weightlifting leanness. I don't know what I'm trying to say. She needs to get fitter.
Yeah, she'll be fine. I mean, they've got 3 months until the game. She'll be fine.
Starting this week, right?
Starting this week, yeah. In the background here, this video, we see our 417 boys. They're going to have to come up big in France. They fell short.
Yeah, unfortunately. Tyler might not qualify for the games, although he probably should have.
Yeah, he's a freak, but he'll be back. They have a chance in France. There's the Mayhem Independence team, which if I remember correctly, which I don't, I feel like they beat the Independence team. 417 beat the Independence team at the Rogue Invitational. I'm going to verify if that is correct. No leaderboards I can view there. So hopefully they can get it done. Really, Mayhem Independence is the only team that they will have to beat there. Otherwise, there are not that many good teams there. What'd you throw up?
The Buttery Bros.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we got for now.
That's what we got for now. Let's see, what else?
Rick, what else you got? Blues?
Cool. Talk about the boys.
The trip.
Let's go, boys.
Yeah,
Blues are playing tonight, Sunday. Tomorrow, Sunday. Game
Stanley
6.
Cup.
What a fucking ride it's been.
All St. Louis CrossFit gyms are closed on Monday, or should be, for hangover.
Yeah, it's don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but it's going to be electric tomorrow in the city.
Oh, and I love it. I love it. It's been great.
It's been great. It's been great.
Portnoy says Burns at 7.
Now he thinks they're gonna win 6 and 7. He's a big softy. He's a big softy. The Talgate of 2019.
Yeah, he's been kind of soft about that. Very soft.
Yeah, I mean it's good media for his company. So
You know, we lost all 12 Stanley Cup final games we've ever been in.
What?
before this
Yeah,
series,
we
it was the
3 straight years.
Oh no.
It was the first. Our first win was our first win in Boston, and then the first win in St. Louis. That was the first Stanley Cup win, and we're gonna win it. We're gonna fucking win it, boys.
Do it.
Yeah,
Boris is gonna
Tuukka
dance.
Rask with a broken jaw playing. That was definitely.
You mean Ochara? You mean
Ochara.
Zdeno Ochara?
with broken
I think
jaw
it's
playing.
just Chara. I always like to say Ochara.
Oh, Chara. It is just Chara.
What else you got on our list?
That pretty much wraps it up. I mean, yeah. Covered Rich, Hunter, 417 coming up big in France.
Media again. The media going dark. Everybody's
Media
gonna want to
going
talk
dark.
about it. I'm kind of over talking about it.
I'm over talking about it.
Go
They're
work
not
out.
coming back. Go work out. Yeah.
Get your fitness in.
Yeah. Where are the Buttery Bros in this video?
This is the Granite Games.
Oh, the Granite Games.
They do. Jess is in here. That's why I'm watching it.
Oh, sick.
She comes up and shows off her dance moves, I think.
Love Jess.
There was one point that we're talking about the season being like more random.
Mm-hmm.
Really, you think about it, it's not random, but in terms of how it's always been, it's more random now because you're talking about athletes going to.
Well, I think the
Picking their
athlete
own
has more
season.
control, right? I mean,
Right.
the athlete gets to choose what sanctionals they go to or attempt to go to or
Right.
qualify for. And so they don't have to play along as much to the regional open season, which
Right.
I don't know why people are so attached. I think like you've expressed the opinion of like, you know, people get amped up to do the open. It's a good community builder, and I agree with all those things. So I think that CrossFit should continue to try and do it. But if it doesn't really align with the new guidelines of health and wellness to be encouraging people to be trying things that they really shouldn't be trying, then I have a good reason to believe they'll just go to the sanctionals and the qualifiers for the sanctionals as a due process for figuring out who's fit to come to games.
I think the problem is in the affiliate, though, if they're trying things that they shouldn't be trying. Wouldn't you agree? Because if you have an athlete, from a coach's perspective,
I mean, there's ego involved in all of this.
I
There's
agree.
people that you
I
yeah.
agree. You know what I mean? But
I understand where you're going. I get it.
because every
But
day,
there's
every day
for
in
sure,
programming, we
for
put
sure.
out RX, and
Yeah.
somebody tries RX Plus at 155 pounds, and
Yeah.
they do it in 10 minutes longer, and it's
Mhm.
not as effective. So
Mhm.
I mean, it's ego, like you said.
Yeah.
But the sanctional thing is like since CrossFit's been a thing, it's prepare for the unknown and unknowable, and like
Exactly.
this is. You still have some
Yeah.
idea of the
You
shit
know
that's
the
going on.
movements.
It's just like
You know the
it's just
basic
different
structure.
now. Yeah.
I mean, that's why it'll be interesting to see what hosts of competitions have to do to attract the high caliber athlete to show up, because that's going to be what's going to make, it's going to be like a golf tournament, like horse race. I mean, horse racing now has 3 major horse races, even though there's horse racing every weekend.
Right.
I don't think it's going to turn into that. I think more similar to like golf or tennis, where there's a couple major tournaments, but athletes can still have an opportunity to show up and make money, 30 weeks out of the year if they're going to host. I think the competition season will realistically be shorter, because I think they'll have multiple weekends with probably no more than 2 or 3 sanctionals. So maybe the competition season starts, I don't know, January until the end of summer. Maybe I don't know. It depends on. Have they released any information about who they're?
Yeah. So next year they do.
When's the first one start? Because I guess you could consider that the start of the season.
Yeah. So
Until the end of the games.
What's its name? The freaking Morning Chalk Up put a season schedule up, and the Open is in October.
I think they're gonna bail on the Open.
November 22nd. I'm in. November 22nd is the first one in Dublin. The
Okay,
Filthy
so
Fit. The Filthy Fitty.
End of November.
End of
season
November
starts.
till June. The French Throwdown is the last week in June.
And then
July. I mean, basically, you're looking at a 10.5-month season. But like you said, athlete has discretion. You don't even have to. If there is an Open, you don't even have to do the Open.
Nope.
If there is. If there's not, first one's in November. You've got November till. I mean, honestly, the French Throwdown's going to have to.
So here's what I'm saying.
Because I think athletes are going to want.
If you're smart, you got to peak during one of those sanctionals prior to the games.
Do 2 peaks in a year.
Yeah, but
Qualify for the games.
The games isn't even. It's going to get to a point, I think, where people aren't even going to try to. They're showing up to the games to show face. It's not going to be their peak.
No, exactly.
Maybe try to win one event.
I don't think so. Yeah.
So I think
You'll make the cut. Want to make the. Go ahead.
you'll plan on showing up to anywhere from 3 to 7. Let's say the higher caliber athletes. I think Sam Briggs and some of these teams have gone to 7 sanctionals. Have made it to. I think I counted. So these athletes will try to peak during 2 of those, win multiple events, place really high, take home a lot of prize money, and then taper, and then try to get themselves ramped up again to show face at the games.
Ramp up.
But I don't think they're going. I don't know. I my understanding, I've not gone to the games, never trade for the games, not in its current format or the old format. But
I think a lot of athletes can train 5 days a week at 80 to 85% and not necessarily be getting any fitter, but just be maintaining, also be focusing more on their health, maybe just flexibility, it all depends on state of injury too. Assuming you're healthy, I think an athlete can train at that level, moderate the volume, and then ramp up for a peak in 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
You give an athlete, a high-level athlete, 90 days that's eating clean, doing all the right things. You give them 90 days. They can ramp up, maintaining skill, and they can be ready to go.
I agree.
So that's really cool.
Which is
I
adverse
think
to the old training.
Yeah.
correct, and I even think too what you'll see as hopefully as a sport, it's not a guarantee that the sport will only continue to grow. The sanctionals have to again maintain stability, sustainability, be sustainable.
Do you presume that there will be some flux just like there were with affiliate?
100%.
Boxes opening, like
100%.
15,000 affiliates. Okay, is it still 15,000, or was that what it was at its
So
peak? Or has it gone above that and come back to
there's
that?
24 sanctionals. We might see in 5 years there might only be 15 or 12 because those are the only ones that could be sustainable. I mean, that's possible. Because here's what I think is also here's what's gonna have to happen is for the sanctionals to be sustainable. Any of them, they're gonna need to be. They're gonna need attention, viewership, fans.
Right. Nah, I think more than anything, you're going to need people to show up to spectate.
Maybe not. There's going to be paywall. There'll be paywalls eventually. People can. Yeah,
but how do sports teams make money? Like merchandising and attendance to stadiums, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and they're struggling. They're having to find ways to adapt to get fans to go to the games by offering whatever. Anyway,
they've signed
my idea is I think what you'll see is the chief sponsors of these sanctionals will, and I shouldn't say force, but they will encourage through monetary means their athletes. So whether it's RPM or sanctionals will even maybe have a contract with an athlete like, look, I want you to come to my event for the next 3 years.
Sure.
But I think the way that they'll have to do that is through the sponsors. So whatever the chief sponsors are of Rogue Invitational, or Rogue will even do that with their own athletes. But that's kind of using the Rogue as the standard is a bad idea. Let's say the MAC, the Mid Atlantic, whoever the chief sponsors of those are, RPM, whatever, they'll get those athletes to go to that comp because they want the attention at that competition because they're the chief sponsor. I think that's what we'll have to see because in order for these events to be sustainable, they're going to need that level of competition for people to either go, ideally to attend, or just to watch at the very least. That's kind of how I see the sport continuing to grow. And yes, Brian, I think it's not guaranteed that we'll have 24 sanctionals. I think that's just what we have now. And then the cream will rise to the crop. The ones that are the best will maintain. They'll be profitable. They'll stay. The ones that aren't will unfortunately either end or someone will try to take them over that can make them sustainable. That's just the way it will work. That's the market.
Take a breath. Breathe. Nice. There you go.
Your turn.
I'm good. I think we're good.
Frank says he's good.
Frank says he's good. How we doing? Is that cute?